Howdy, it's tubalcain once again, and this is tips number 459, and I'm going to make another eagle bookend or eagle plaque. I'm not really sure what this is, but you saw me buy this at a sale here a few days ago, and it was 50 cents or $1, I forgot. You know, maybe it's not a bookend because first of all it's aluminum, doesn't have a whole lot of weight to it, and secondly it's not really a flat back. That is, it's you can look at it from all sides. So I'm going to make another casting from this. So he's got a mate, and since it's an irregular parting line, I'm going to show you how to part down to the parting line again. I've done that before, but that's in several videos, but I'm going to do it again because nobody ever watched any of those others. Also, I've got to make a few changes on this in order to use it as a pattern. Remember that when you take a casting and use it as a pattern and make another casting, it kind of degrades in quality as you go down the line. You lose some of the detail, but I guess for this it doesn't matter. But in a way, this is a defective casting. It's got massive amount of shrinkage right here on the bottom, which would have been the thick part. Not that that hurts anything because that's not visible, but I'm going to see if I can eliminate that. But also, since this is pretty well square, well, let me pull out a square here and show you what I mean. But I'm going to have to modify this in order to use it as a pattern. My point here is that there's no pattern draft. You see, this is pretty much square. So I have to taper that off. And in order to do that, I'm going to put glue a piece of wood on there, probably use epoxy, and then taper that off. That'll make this a little bit thicker. And then when the pattern, or when the casting is done, I'll be able to square that off, either with a belt sander or mill it if I have to, although there's probably no good way to hold this. It's so terribly irregular. But I like the looks of this. In some ways, it reminds me of the Maltese falcon, but of course, this is an eagle. They both were birds of prey, but I do like this. It's painted gold. Little Henry right away said it was a golden eagle. He can talk quite a bit now. He says it's a golden eagle. But it's a pretty design, isn't it? And if you don't know this or not, I am a patriot and I love my country and I love the symbols of our country, which to me is both the flag and the eagle. And you people know that when I make offers for my videos, you know, I do favor veterans. You know, I always give them a discount, and I just have great respect for any men that served in our military or in our police forces or anybody in uniform. I have great respect for. So let's talk about what I need to do to this besides the wood. I just did a recent series of videos on these wheels, if you watched that, but I made patterns, and these are 3D printed patterns, but they're flat back. That is, that's a flat pattern. However, it's a split pattern, so half of it's in the cope and half is in the drag, but yet it is flat on the parting plane. This is the parting plane. So, this is not flat. Look under his wings, if I can put this ruler under here. You can see that that does not come down to the table, which we'll call the parting line. Look, I can even stick a pencil under there and under his head. So when I ram this up, I'm going to have to part it down. I also considered taking clay, and I still have some of that clay, and making a follow board, and I did that in several videos. Nobody seemed to care two hoots about that, so it probably won't take the time. That takes a lot more time than parting it down. But parting it down is somewhat inaccurate and totally depends on the judgment of the molder. So let me talk about what the parting line is here. Maybe I'll get a Sharpie to show you. By laying the eagle pattern on a board, you can see now that it does not lie flat, and that would be very troublesome and problematic as I start to ram sand around it. So where is the parting line? Usually you can see traces of it, and they probably had match plates for this and had 6 of them on a match plate board. and you know, cast up a bunch of them. I suppose they were mass producing this. I don't know how old this is, you know, if it's 10 years old or 50 years old. But let me show you with a Sharpie what the parting line is. The baseline here will be this, where it lays flat on the board. So you can see that the parting line starts effectively right here. But I'm going to come down here now, and can you see that right here is the parting line, and right down the wing. And when I get into the shoulder part here, well, it kind of drifts away and it's hard to tell where it is. But I guess I'll go right down the center, right here. And in some ways you can see a little bit of the residual parting line, but I suppose they cleaned it up in the foundry with a file. And then it goes right up here, through his head and through his beak. You know what, this might be a little harder than I think. You can see a little bit of the parting line there, can't you? Is this too much for you? And I'll part that all down with a molding spoon. Get a little careless here. And then back. Right there. Do you understand that now? That, in other words, I'm going to lay that down on the board. I won't talk so much about this once I start molding, but I'll lay that down on the board, and everything on the chest side here will be it'll end up in the drag part like that, and the rest will be in the cope. So it'll be a two-part. I'm effectively making it into a split pattern without truly splitting it. That make any sense? Now watch Sandrammer's videos. He talks quite a bit about this type of thing. There's a trademark there. You know, this is probably copyrighted, but I'm only making one of them. Also, besides Sandrammer, who was in the Navy, Myford Boy does a great job with patterns and molding. I'm sure you've all watched him. He gets a heck of a lot more views than what I do. Alright, I wanted to show you another defect here, and I think Sandrammer talked about this too. Can you see what almost looks like a crack here? I won't mark it, but that appears to be what I'm going to call a hot tear. So the metal separated or tore as it started to shrink and cool, and it's even more evident on the front side. My stockbroker is calling me to declare a dividend. Well, it wasn't my stockbroker, it was a Dunning call. Somebody said I owe him $5,000, and yesterday somebody said I won the lotto. All I got to do is give them my credit card number and put $1,000 down, and then I can secure the $1 million that I won. Well, what I will do here, sometimes I get so sarcastic, I'm sorry I do that, but you know, life beats you down, doesn't it? So I'll take a little filler and just fill it just a little bit so that that won't show up. You see some imperfections here, but that's typical. So the first thing I'm going to do off camera is glue that piece of wood on here. I got to see what I got. I only want to make it about 1/4 inch thick. So, alright, we'll see you after that glue dries. It's too hot to make the mold today anyway. I'll do that on the morrow. Well, this is just common Bondo that I'm using. If I had some spotting glaze, that would be good too. Then I wouldn't have had to mix it. Because this is always a mess, hard to get off your fingers. But I'm trying to get in there and fill that. I don't know if it's worth it or not. Or am I wasting my time? Oh, I'm wasting my time, no doubt about it. This side will be easier. Try to get it smooth enough so I don't really need to sand it. Looks something like that. Matter of fact, it looks exactly like that. I gotta stop saying that. Sometimes I wear out my expressions, don't I? Alright. Now we gotta get some epoxy out, and I've got a piece of wood here that I'm gonna glue. Aspen, hobby wood, Menards, 1/4 inch thick. Glue it right onto the base. Be right back. Alright, this is quick cure, 5-minute. Pretty old, I hope it works. And I've already got it mixed. That is a big shrink hole, isn't it? You see, you can't use Elmer's here, I wouldn't think anyway. And then, get that out of the way. Just like that. Squeeze it a little bit. Couple clamps. 3 of them to be exact. And when this cures, hardens, sets, but not dries. A lot of people still say dry. Does glue dry? I'll wipe some of that off. It's kind of a mess. I don't want it to stick to the board. Alright, now I will see you. I lied to you. Now I will see you on the morrow. Well, I'm back and it's a new day, and the epoxy has hardened. So I will lightly sand this and the filler right there just a little bit off camera. Now what I'm also going to do is to saw this on the bandsaw, pretty much get rid of all the excess, and then I will sand it down, and from this angle, well, I'll show you after I got it cut down what I'm going to do, but I am going to taper it off. It's way too thick now, so I'll be back in a moment. Using the belt sander, after I used the bandsaw, I've got that all blended in rather nicely, I think. Way too thick, so now I need to put the pattern draft on, about 3 degrees. Here's a little Starrett 90-degree double square. This is my Lufkin, long dead machinist, die maker square set at 3 degrees. So I've already got that marked. I think I'll try to saw most of that off, otherwise this material, even with a sharp belt sander, sure does burn. Okay, I'll do that off camera real quickly. That gives me the 3 degree pattern draft. That came out rather nicely, if I dare say so myself. And I broke the corners just a little bit there with sandpaper. And looking at it from this angle again, worm's eye view, there's the regular square, there's Jake's square. So we got about 3 degrees on there, pattern draft. So it's really just about ready to go to the molding bench. One more thing. Really, I need some way to lift this out of the sand, and I'm hesitant to deface this, although I've already defaced it, I guess. But I'm going to drill a hole in the nape of his neck. Do eagles have napes? And in the base here, I've already center punched it. Those holes will be drilled 5/30 seconds and tap 10/24. That'll allow me to put 2 machine screws in there to lift that out of the sand. So there it is. I've got a way to withdraw it. Now there are other ways of doing that. I could cut little finger holes here, but then that requires a cleanup. So I think this is the best way, even though, as I said, I'm hesitant. Those won't show up in the final casting because I'll fill them. Alright, it's ready to go. Really should have some kind of paint or sealant here, but I'm only making a one of, so I've already spent, what, probably about an hour, even though it's less than that on the video. Now, one other thing, as I go out to the molding bench, I will be using my Mighty Mite Speed, what do they call it? Aerator Speed Sand Muller. I've had many questions about this, and I'm not really going to talk about it in this video, but there will be an upcoming video. I have no idea what the number is. It might have a number before the number of this video, but with Petrobond sand, if you don't have a muller, you really are going to have a problem mixing it, because it isn't just a matter of mixing, it's a matter of rubbing in a muller. So watch for that video should that interest you. I think that'll be a low level interest, but some people have asked for that. All right, I'll see you out at the molding bench. I'm not going to show every step because you've seen all that. Some of that I'll speed up, but I will give you a detail when I part it down again to the irregular parting line. Kind of a pretty statue, isn't it? Here I am at the McEngleman molding bench, and this is a 10 by 12 flask, 3-inch cope, 3-inch drag. There's the pattern, and I'm setting it a little bit farther down to the end here because this is where the sprue will go. I guess I got room here. I need to have room here to deal with that parting down business. So a little parting sand, speaking of parting, and freshly mulled sand, and I'll see you in a couple minutes. By the magic of television, it's rammed up, and let me roll it over. All right, as you can see, there's a lot of work to be done with the spoon. So I won't talk during that, but again, I'm taking a spoon and removing the sand down to that black Sharpie line that I put. Remember, the irregular parting line. There we go. Now with the excess sand blown away, I'm not down there yet, but I'm just approaching it. You know, this is, I think, an artist's spatula, maybe for paint or something. I think I'm going to try that. That was in a box of junk. To see how that works as a spoon. And it has to be tapered way back. Probably can't worry about doing it too much. I mean, it could go back 3 inches for that matter. Nah, that's too long. I like the regular old molder spoon better, I guess. I like to take it a little bit at a time so I don't remove too much and then have to start over. I feel like an archaeologist unearthing some dinosaur bones. Here we go. Okay, let's see what we got here. Here we go. I like to tap the cope a little bit. Sometimes I think it helps. Maybe I'm just delusional on that. Now I'm going to try to lift this straight up. I do expect some sand to fall in. I just hope it's not too bad. This is always a little tension involved here. Drum roll, if you please. All right, it actually does look pretty good. Now you see a little loose sand that fell in there, the darker stuff. Let me move the camera over and you can see what the cope path looks like. Maybe I can zero in on that. So I'm semi-happy, but while I got the camera in this position, that's when I'm going to cut the gate. Now, Sand Rhymer Man from the Navy, if you're watching, leave some comments maybe on how you would have gated this or how you would have done this. I'm not an expert by any means on gating and risering. It is a science. It's an absolute science. And here's the cope half. Yeah, I need to get in there and knock that. I have to take the gloves off. See how oily the sand is? That's one of the reasons I wear the sissified gloves. It's oily. Now, on withdrawing the pattern, I like to tap it. And then with a hammer or something, all right, I've tapped the heck out of it. I'm going to attempt to lift it straight up. I know there'll be some sand falling in. That's a given. Drum roll again, if you please. All right. Let me blow it out. You see some sand, some loose sand. I'll probably turn it. A big chunk fell off there. Did you see that? A big chunk. All right, I'll turn it upside down to get the rest of that sand out and reassemble it, and then it's ready to pour. Yes, that will be a big defect there. I probably didn't take it down to the parting line far enough, or the sand wasn't packed hard enough right there. Could be either one. It's been exactly 60 minutes since I poured it. Still kind of hot, but let me cool it off and we'll go down the basement. It's about 100 degrees in the shade today, so I don't really want to make another one. And by the way, there is no shade, but I think it's good. It's going to require cleanup around the edges, just as I predicted, but not a bad facsimile. Back in the cool of the basement, let's have a look now. Not too bad along that parting line. You can expect some of that. You always can expect some, even on a split pattern. Here, that's not real great. That'll all file off. And the biggest problem here, the sand fell in right there. Now, why did it fall in? I'm not sure if there was an undercut there, or I told you before, couple of possibilities. Let me go ahead and cut the gate off, and then I would like to sand it such that it will set flat Remember, this is at an angle. Now, I told you before also that there is some deterioration in the detail with each successive casting that you make from a previous casting. So you can see that it's not as good. And also each one is smaller. And I've talked about shrinkage before. So the widest part of the original is, what, 5 38/1000ths. And the widest part here, make sure there's no, is 4.993. So what, there's, you know, shrunk up about a 32nd of an inch. The same would be true with the height. Be right back. Oh, the back side looks real good, but who cares about the back side, huh? I got the bottom pretty well squared up. One little corner yet to do right here. It got so hot I had to quit. I think that my gating system was very good because there is no shrinkage here. You know, we got a little bit here, but I don't know, shrinkage just wasn't a problem at all for me today. So now I'm going to take this nice double cut file and work away a little bit here at the parting line, and then I'll have to get down in here with a rat tail file. I won't show all that, that'd be way too boring. I think you can see that the detail is not quite as good, but not bad. I have no intention of painting it or doing any more. I did take a file and removed some of that fall in there, and it's acceptable. So there we are, the symbol of our nation. Hope you liked the video. Leave a favorable comment. And this is tubalcain saying I'll see you in the next one. So long for now.